Welcome. These will be my thoughts on Arrow Season 2, Episode 10, Blast Radius. The episode is rated TV-14, so will this video be? There will be spoilers for the episode and the ones leading up to it. And another episode I absolutely loved. So I thought it worked well the way that we are, seeing the fact that there was at least some effect of Miracle on Roy. Right now I'm forgetting if I did... Did I really forget to mention him taking the needle or being administered? Obviously, that's a big deal in the episode before this one. And yeah, seeing Slade start to unravel on the island after he got Miracle. And finding out more about blood was also, yeah, I can hardly wait to see more. And yeah, let's start with the flashback material. So yeah, the let's see, we have the burial of the funeral, and yeah, genuinely compelling as Oliver points out. Shadow never said that she wouldn't die on the island. She had accepted that and was gonna do what she could to help him. And let's see. Yeah, the part where Slade... Yeah, I guess I've already said that I think it's gonna go badly when Slade finds out. Because Ivo's still alive. He could tell Slade that Oliver chose to save Sarah. And let's see. I think Sarah's right that it's not gonna go well. But yeah, the part where Slade actually grabs and starts to choke Oliver, and she hits him with this branch. Holy crap. That's... yeah, she really is a very... that she could have ended up dead there. That might have gotten her killed, and it's possible that Slade would have gone right back to killing Oliver. But she, she's at least giving Oliver a chance to survive there, and accepting that she herself might die. Yeah, I think... let's see. And he actually apologizes. That's not something we see him do every single time. That he can be a very intense person, but this is still, him trying to kill Oliver is not Tuesday. And yeah, it is really compelling idea, this thing of, we know how strong someone can get from Miracle, and now to see someone who also has this military training and this really hardened, yeah, that's gonna be really, really scary. And then the radio message where Ivo basically threatens he's gonna torture them, experiment on them, if they don't give him back the Miracle. And then Slade is gone, and he took the Miracle with him. Holy crap. And we already know, last they had a conversation, he said he was gonna go find and kill Ivo. And she made a really good point. There's so many of them, though. There's not Ivo's, but his men. And yeah, that's the thing. Slade, once he has his mind set on something, it is very difficult for others to convince him otherwise. And now with the miracle in his veins, that might be even more. Yeah, I think that is each of the flashbacks. So yes, let's see, in the present day we have, let's see what, I'm actually struggling a little bit to remember what was the first thing in this episode. Okay, certainly one thing that I do want to talk about. Yeah, the way, we see, so apparently he's called Shrapnel. He bombs the, you know, yeah, this building, and, it's this thing of like there's he feels that the people who have so much power and use it to hurt others, that they deserve this sort of thing. And the yeah, is one of those things where, right, for those who don't already know, I don't know, I think I probably said too much for people who watch a lot of my videos, but every so often, since I discuss it, it's good to say in case this is someone's first video. Similar to how, was it Stan Lee, RIP, who used to write comics as if each of them was the first someone picked up. In real life, I am opposed to violence. I think it should be an absolute last resort. I'm not saying it's never necessary. It was necessary during World War II to stop the Nazis. Stonewall needed to happen. Shouldn't have had, but did. They should have gotten their, rights without. But moving on. Yes, and to think, LGBTQ plus rights still really, really badly under attack. And moving on. Yes, so I am 100% against what Shrapnel is doing. It's one of those things where every so often, when someone sufficiently extreme, and these days in America, if they're violent extremists, a lot of the time that means they're cishet white male. Yeah, I only agree that, it is important to help those in need, and that the powerful could do more, but what he's doing is not at all justified. And I thought they did a good job on that. That is one of those things, like, we always have to keep an eye on, that we and others on our side, and others in general, obviously, but, even if you are right about who's doing something wrong, there are certain lines you can't cross. And I thought it worked really well. That, we see like the reflection of the building, and then we see the explosion in the reflection, and so, because Felicity is still there, 5 weeks, Barry's still in a coma, or sleeping, but possibly hallucinating more than dreaming. And yeah, this thing of like, well, Felicity usually does this, like Diggle manages to get it, but not, yeah, we see from right away they really miss Felicity. And yeah, fantastic. Like, it really helped make it feel more impactful that the episode shows the building on fire, and they're, working on putting it out. And yeah, he has to go there to save this one person, and yeah, it was a really effective way to, let's see, because like for the rest of the episode, we're worried the shrapnel is gonna hit again, and he does attempt to hit the big the party that Blood throws. I think that might just about right. I like the when so Arrow, obviously Oliver can't come out and tell Thea about Roy being injected, so he sticks with, well, Arrow put an arrow in him, and you know and her, because she doesn't know about the injection. She doesn't know that, because Oliver's seen this before. We the audience are starting to see, but he spent, you know he first found out about Miracle, years ago on the island. But yeah, her joke about, he did do something out of character, he showed up on time. Yeah, classic sibling banter. And let's see. Yeah, the part where, they talk, and it starts to get, you know amorous, and he, knocks some of that stuff off and gets like a shard of glass into his arm, which, it's one of those things, like, sometimes they got, they didn't usually get hurt during it. It's not the first time that we see them, like when they are both very, how do I put this delicately? Sometimes they, passions inflame, but yeah, him not quite being careful enough to avoid it falling off, that doesn't seem quite like him. Like, he, recently he has been doing better, at least, at not being careless. The that time he played chicken with, you know um, the two. Yeah, that was a little while ago, and he seemed like he was, but Miracle and the arrow, yeah, and that was, kind of a deep cut, and there's a decent amount of blood. She gets, it's first aid kit deep, not last rites priest deep. And later, it's just healed. So yeah, we're seeing some of the stuff that, yeah, really compelling. Seeing the effects of Miracle on his buddy. And I think, let's see, I guess that's a good time to talk about, so yeah, Laurel. Oh, I actually, no, yeah, I'll briefly, so Laurel, the thing about, like, she's not, she feels like there's something off about Blood and Nicholas, not Roy's, and, you know, going on a date with him, and sees the letter that, you know, I think before I talk more about that, I will briefly note, yeah, I am already really loving the mask. I forget if I said in the video or if I only really thought about it later, but, basically, whenever, he wears the mask, basically there is a connection between him and Barry, so very nicely done on that. And now it's also enabling him to stand face to face with Lance, the cop, and not be recognized. So that's a really good addition. You know, it's one of those things, like, it can be nice and dramatic. It's this kind of there's a number of soap operas that do it. For example, people not looking directly at each other, not looking each other in the eyes when they're talking, but you can get a lot out of that sort of thing. And, you know, among other things, it gives the actors, they can play off each other in a way that there's less of that if they can't see each other's. Yeah, I think that pretty much gets us to the. Let's see. Um, yeah, the conversation, you know, where he, you know, the thing about, like, you have to get me the fragments from the explosion, and the conversation about, you know, Cyrus, that yeah, he's gonna find the leak, and yeah, it's one of those things. It's the yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how that plays out, because, like, I wouldn't rule out he might be able to find out, but I also know Blood is willing to go far to cover his tracks. Yeah. Yeah, so Laurel talks to him about, you know, the money, and we get the thing about, well, you know, it's his aunt. I didn't even know he had a colony. And the let's see. Yeah, it's that thing of, like, it sounds, you know, it sounds like it's an act of love to be paying for, you know, your last, the last member of your family other than yourself, you know. And yeah, the thing about, so she, you know, she talks to him, and says, you know, you never do talk about your parents. And also when he talks about Cyrus, you know, and you know, so obviously at least some of the things he says are lies. I think there's a chance that it is true that, you know, there was a month where he didn't say anything, and then Cyrus was the one he felt comfortable talking to. And that's also part of, you know, and it's that thing about um right, so to be clear, someone being quiet doesn't mean that they are dangerous, but if there is someone, you know, that is quiet, and you get the sense that, you know, deep down they do want to talk to someone, there's just something going on, you know, it's wonderful to try to help that person. And if you don't think you can be the person they talk to, maybe you can put them in touch with someone who they can talk to. But it is true that sometimes when someone does not talk to others for a while, it can, you know, be a sign of something, or it can lead them to something that's very dangerous. So really nicely done on that. Yeah, really appreciating the way, because it's the kind of thing, hypothetically, let's say that they wanted, let's say they were doing a movie and Blood was, you know, not even necessarily central, just an antagonist. They might have had, like, just a bunch of flashback shots of these several things we found out about Blood, or maybe he just wouldn't have a lot to him, you know, like, yeah, really appreciating the way that they're using the fact that they have more, you know, running time to build towards all this. You know, not all shows do. Some of them, they'll, you know, spend some time on something and then abandon it, or they'll just drop something in because they're like, oh, we kind of want to do that, but it's too late to spend a lot of time building up to it. So really appreciate how well things are, you know, it feels like they have an idea of where they want a season to end up and are using that time they have. So I think, let's see, the the other thing was the the thing about his he makes he says that, his father comes home one day, asks him why so serious, and yeah, he says that his mother shot his father and he never saw her again. He also didn't see him again, but it wouldn't have been as meaningful once he was dead. Do I make too many edgy jokes? It's part of my way of processing. Sometimes really bad things happen in the real world, and I find edgy jokes to help. Moving on. Obviously, I have tremendous sympathy for orphans, but that was a really effective way to do. That's finding out a little bit more about, so like by the end of the episode, it does seem like his father is dead, but he knows exactly where his mother is, and he killed his father rather than it being her. So yeah, really, really effective. That is also a thing. Like when someone's an orphan in piece of media like this, they're, you know, some of them are heroes or at least anti-heroes. Some of them are villains. There's a pretty decent chance they're not gonna be completely okay. But then again, in real life, it can be a deeply traumatic thing to become an orphan. And I think that does bring us to, let's see. Yeah, Felicity comes back. That was a great, the thing about like, well, we'd have to work with the police, and she just says, good thing we have an inn. Very nicely done. And, yeah, at first, Oliver says that and I do believe him. He is actually worried about Barry. But then once, you know, the so they find I guess I'll just briefly note, really love seeing, the just very, very brief, but a scene of Shrapnel not in, you know, not doing the thing, and he's selling this toy train to, this mother, and her saying something along the lines of, "You are a lifesaver." Yeah, very, very good way to the irony there. But yeah, there are a number of people who, sometimes do terrible things, and then like during the day they seem normal. I mean, these two are on a first name basis. I mean, they're not co-workers technically. She comes to his or the store where he works, and is relieved when he, is able to help out. So yeah, but yeah, so Felicity, she tracks um, the detonator, and gets the Oliver follows for a while. Very nicely done on, first he throws, he throws like some grenade, And Oliver pulls a Mission Impossible 2, uses this motorcycle as a shield, and then he throws a smoke bomb. And the yeah, uses the the cell phone thing. He has it. I forget what they explain what it was, but yeah, he makes it seem like it's some other. And yeah, it is true that Oliver nearly hit a bus. Um, the Yeah, him going off on Felicity, she's right to point out that he's way out of line. And yeah, the you know he says you need to pull your head out of Central City, and she says right after you pull yours out of your ass. She really does nail the yeah, some of these comments just wonderfully. And the let's see. Um, yeah, Dale points out you've never had a problem with Felicity's performance before she met Barry Allen. And there is it's this thing of like there might be some jealousy there, and he also by the end of the episode he's ready to admit part of it is he's worried about losing her. He really needs her, and when he tells her that, it resolves the conflict. That's really all. He just needs to talk to her. That is still something sometimes he struggles with, which a lot of cishet white men, sometimes even especially ones with some additional privilege such as wealth, really really struggle with, because she does want to work with him, and she is doing really great work. Like, it's not like I mean, the thing about the the phone, and the bus, like, that could have happened before Barry, though. Like, it's not the yeah. And I guess that does, yeah. um let's see. Yeah, the when the part where so in response to like, yeah, Blood says he's gonna have this party, because, like, when he knows that the shrapnel's dangerous. So yeah. And yeah, the thing about he won't listen to me, and so, or listen to a friend, something like that. And it was great the way that he does reach for the gun, but and it there's a few seconds where he's got his hand right there, and ultimately he doesn't use it. And Slade told him to not. And we know that the reason why he's not is that Slade says, oh, he'll be punished so much more if you don't kill him now. And I think that does pretty much get us to, oh, right, now I remember the first scene. I'm pretty sure it was the part where, unless it was a flashback, but Oliver has been going around talking to people who might know Blood, and again doesn't really get anywhere. That was also a really cool action scene, though. Holy crap, he's better at playing chicken than Roy is. Um, the and fantastic car stunt with the goes flying in the air, and the landing, like, holy crap. And they make sure to have it crash into, I forget, was it like piles of boards maybe, or something that like gets knocked over. So very kind of, I would say the word is visceral. Yeah. And I think that does cover. Yeah. So he goes to talk to. He goes to Shrapnel's place, and it was rigged, and this thing of, you know, if you move a muscle, it will, but he already had the bow drawn, so he just had to find the right place to shoot with it. I do also appreciate, maybe I've said in other videos on the show, I think when they have an episode where the person he's up against isn't that much of like a physical threat, but there's other stuff, it helps it hit harder when he fights someone who is a physical threat. And he did just fight Cyrus recently, so yeah. 2 episodes in a row, come to think. So it's good to have something that's more, yeah. It feels very classic, kind of DC. I haven't read that many where it was Arrow, but I have read some where it was Batman, who's basically, yeah, a detective who wore tights. The more of a focus on him solving something, similar to the Batman, the movie from a few years ago. Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz. Yeah. And the thing about like, are you sure you want me doing this? Because my head's not really in the game. Wonderful. And let's see. I think, yeah, they note about the fuse box, and he is able to disable the yeah, the explosives like that. And yeah, also the fact that not only is like a huge chunk of the city there, and a reporter straight up asks Blood, are you sure this is a good idea? Deeg is there to try to find the explosives, and yeah, as like at one point we see, very, very nicely done, because like of course there's going to be journalists live filming there. At one point, Oliver is looking at the TV or something, and he sees, you know, some people there that he would not want near a bomb. I mean, Roy is also there, but like Oliver is starting to warm up to him, and Thea and Moira are there. Yeah, I think the and yeah, holy crap. Him like tanking the what are those called again? The metal beam thing that folds. Yeah. And I think, yeah, the thing about, well, we don't have to disarm it, we just have to disable it. And the let's see. The thing about like I have, if I press this button, I'll detonate all these, and then he just shoots, Oliver uses an arrow to cut through the wire. He's just standing there looking like a clown. That was genuinely a great way to, again, like if every single episode ends with, Oliver punching someone, while I would not be saying, why are you always hitting people, it would still not have the same impact as when every so often they have something like this. And yeah, I think so the ending of the episode. So Laurel goes to talk to Mom Ant Blood, and the thing about, he convinced everyone I was, mentally ill, so they wouldn't listen to me because I know who really killed his father. Very, very effectively done. And, it is really important today that we do stories that acknowledge that, sadly, when someone is thought of as mentally ill, a lot of people just won't listen to them. And yeah, it's a problem. There are people who, every so often you have people taking advantage of that. You have really cynical people choosing to do evil and get away. They know they can get away with it if the people that they victimize are not believed. And one of the things, it's not always that, but one of them can be if they are, you know, sometimes they are mentally ill, sometimes they've just been accused of being mentally ill. But yeah, let's see, and I think it was also noteworthy, like when Laurel is let in there, she's told you're probably not gonna get anything out of her, and like she almost immediately does, so it's very clear, like people just don't listen to. I'm afraid I forget her name, so for now she's Mom Ant. The About time somebody reached out to her. And yeah, I think, and also that thing of like, it's okay, I'm a friend of Nicholas, and she says he's the devil. Like, holy crap. Yeah. And I do also appreciate, by the end of the episode, Laurel says, you're not his aunt, you're his mom. Because I will say, as soon as we were told, Oliver says he hasn't seen his mom since that day, and then we find out, oh yeah, this is his aunt, and he's taking care of her. Like, immediately, I'm not saying I'm special there. Like, a lot of us, like, immediately were like, so that's his mom, right? I mean, that it's so I appreciate they didn't spend forever getting to that reveal. It's they're still making sure that they're spreading out a lot of it. Like, we've already learned a bunch about him in, he wasn't in the first season, but in this season, yeah, we've learned a lot about him, seen how he responds to different situations. Like, holy crap, I had no idea that he, like, some of the things I've seen him do now. Like, at first I thought, oh, he sometimes struggles a little to like, with his temper, like, this could be a problem, but finding out he killed his father, yeah. um let's see, and I appreciate that. One thing I definitely would not want to know by the end of this episode that I'm really glad I have coming up, I don't know if that does mean, was his father still abusive? Because it's still possible. Sometimes one parent is abusive and the other parent doesn't know about it, so maybe Mom Ant just simply did not know. Obviously, that still wouldn't justify, but yeah, that's one option. But another is that he did it because he felt like it. I mean, being called the devil is not nothing by your own mom. Holy crap. That's yeah. So unless Mom Ant is like Evelyn Harper or something, there's probably some exaggeration going on there. Yeah. And there is some exaggeration going on there. Maybe there is some... I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I'm not getting enough sleep these days. I don't know. Hopefully I've made it clear. Either there is... Either there was abuse or something else, or he really is evil, or maybe something in between. But I appreciate that we don't know by the end of this episode. That's what I'm getting at. Yeah. And it's intercut with Oliver and Blood shaking hands. You can't trust him. Just like, holy crap. Yeah. And let's see. I think that's another thing I really appreciate. The fact that we already know that he's the man in the mask. That yeah. So every time we see an interaction between these two, or Blood interact with anyone, there is a sinister edge to it. And but yeah, I definitely can believe, if his father was abusive, he learned from that. It would have been great if he didn't, but that's, the human psyche sometimes, it seems like what he's doing now is a trauma response, he learned that if he and those he works with are not sufficiently powerful, that means terrible things happen. And it is, of course, also possible that he just wants to be able to get away with being able to do evil things. And, that's the thing. Like, the army, it could go either way. I think ultimately there's probably... It's going to be necessary for Oliver, possibly with help, to stop him. But whether or not that's going to be, physical violence, talking him out of it, or a combination of the two, remains to be seen. So, yeah. And yeah, the actor who plays Blood does a fantastic job. There's just enough of an edge there where we believe that he's capable of doing these things, but also you can buy why he's able to, he is very charismatic. Like, if we're, it's important that we buy that he might be mayor. Possible Tom Ludlow's going to have to get involved, but yeah, so very nice. And it's this thing of, like, I'm worried about something he might do if he does become it, but I'm also not 100% certain if he, again, I can't rule out right now that maybe he can be talked down. And that's, again, that, is the fact that he didn't attack Arrow in this episode. Like, we know that's because he talked to Slade, or Slade talked to him, but is it because he thinks that, is it that thing of, like, well, he's gonna suffer so much more, and Blood really wants that? Or is there some other, like, maybe he is worried what Slade would... Like, I mean, right now, I can't completely rule out that maybe he's trying to get the Blood so that he can stop Slade, maybe. Because clearly they don't always agree. Because Slade told him not to deal with the vigilante, and he still did. And now he's, not trying to fight, Oliver, Arrow. But yeah, I think that does pretty much cover the yeah, just really looking forward to more. Right, and also, of course, we do again see Laurel is still self-medicating, and yeah, I mean, I worry the effect it's gonna have on her. Like, now she's been told, Nicholas is the devil. If she also, like, realizes that he is Brother Blood, yeah, that can, yeah, I think that does... Oh, right, I liked when, so Oliver does that thing that sometimes guys do when they, scared to be vulnerable, but do realize they have to apologize. So the thing about, were you apologizing to me, or were you talking to your quiver? And, he does actually, you know what? No, you're right. I screwed up. And let's see. Yeah, them talking about like, he hopes the best for Barry. I think that covers everything in this episode. I'm gonna real quick mentally fast forward through it so I don't accidentally miss something that I really wanted to say. Let's see. Um, hmm. No, yeah, I think that might be all of it. Right, I did like Moira say, Sweetie, I'm so proud of you. You've taken Oliver's hobby and turned it into a successful business. My hobby? I mean, Oliver, do you not remember how you were behaving last year? Like, you did make it did seem like it was just something you did to yeah, keep from boredom or something, and I think that does bring us to... Yeah, I really appreciate the way that so Roy, Thea now sees that he heals, and he saved them at the you know at the party. Right, that was also such a cool, like, Shrapnel throws a grenade and Oliver shoots it out the air. Like, holy crap. And let's see. So it's this thing of, like, we, the audience, and Oliver are concerned what might happen to Roy now that he has Miracle in his veins. And for Thea, like, there is this thing, like, some of the first she saw was, like, it seemed positive. He, like, she was worried about him. She used to fear him getting himself killed. And now it's like, well, if this, you know, maybe she won't lose him too. She's also lost a lot. So, yeah. And I wouldn't rule out that could be, like, if there's an episode coming up where, you know, Thea has to be convinced to, like, if Roy takes a turn for the worse, um, might that be, maybe they're going to have to convince Thea that Roy needs help. She also hasn't always been the best at knowing when she or someone she cares about needs help and what kind of help. So really nicely done on that. I think that does cover the let's see. Right, so when I talked about the episode before this one, in my video on the episode before this one, I didn't realize at the time that that was, let's see, what are they called again? Is that the mid-season break? That's some of this terminology I'm still a little new to, but that was a really effective way to, there was something sufficiently dramatic and some storyline was sufficiently resolved that, you could feel confident that people would come back and watch. And then this one does a good job capitalizing on it as well. Yeah, I think that might cover everything. Seeing Laurel being, so she has a bad feeling about Nicholas. And, there was, like, she does try to work with her dad on that. Yeah, we understand why, but I do worry. Nicholas wants to keep these things hidden, And we already know, sometimes Laurel also doesn't completely take care of herself. So yeah, I think. Oh, I liked Felicity pointing out that Dead Man's Switch is morbid and sexist. And I think that might cover the entire thing. So but yeah, with Blood, the fact that he throws this party, yeah, there is definitely, he's got a terrible case of nobody tells me what to do, and he, yeah, there is this sense that he can't stand feeling powerless. Now, whether that's because he, witnessed, maybe if his father was abusive towards him or someone else, and that's when he started or if it's, maybe something else, maybe, maybe he did kill his father without the father being abusive or anything, but yeah, regardless, there's definitely something there, and I appreciate the way that they're, because like in this episode, like him throwing this party isn't like some evil master plan or something. It seems like, at least, it's just the fact that he can't really leave things like this to yeah. And of course, some would say, well, the fact that he threw this party drew out shrapnel, and as long as you can put pressure on the wound, it can be a really good idea to remove shrapnel. So yeah, really, really nicely done. I could certainly see how Oliver might perceive it that way. Yeah, I think so. So yes, the next episode I will cover soon. I have stopped saying exactly when I plan to, because I might accidentally overpromise and underdeliver. But oh, I guess I haven't really recommended any YouTube video in this video. Let's see. I definitely quite appreciated the most recent. Some More News did their part 2, as they had promised, of talking about George W. Bush and how he paved the way for Trump. That was really excellent. Yeah, I think that covers everything. Yeah. I did really appreciate when Diggle, so yeah, he sees the two, and he tries to stop them also, but especially Oliver, who's the one who's really in the wrong there. But yeah, he tries to stop Oliver from blaming Felicity, and points out it doesn't help to play the blame game. We should play Hungry Hungry Hippos.